Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart and welcome to another epic Battles Waterloo campaign related video. So I've recently uploaded the full unboxing of both the French and the British starter armies, and in those boxes you get this book, which is a copy of the black powder rules. With some differences, with some changes. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time they've done this for any of their sort of at least black powder related games. I don't think they do for bolt action either. I think it's just this normal shrunk down rulebook. So what you normally get is one of these. So this is the black powder second edition mini book, the A5 rulebook. This one actually came in, you get it in the 28mm Waterloo starter set, but you also get it in the Epic Battles American Civil War starter. And then there was a separate A4 booklet with a few little things in it. There was a little bit of history, and there was some advice about using epic battle style stands, rather than going on the frontages and things like that. In this book, a couple of suggestions around optional rules about maybe changing the ranges, halving them, or maybe making them centimetres, a couple of scenarios that were lifted, and a few other rules that were lifted from the Glory Hallelujah books. So then we come to the Napoleonic era release, and what they've done is they've kind of combined the two things. So you just get the one booklet. It's slightly larger than your standard black powder booklet in terms of page number. It's a little bit thicker. If we'll show that very well on the camera at the moment, sorry if it's come out of focus. It's a little bit thicker, has a few more pages in it, and I've had a quick flick through, and I haven't done a full list of all the changes they have made, but I thought people might be interested just as a bit of a peek inside if they haven't ordered this and they wonder what the booklet was. I've definitely seen a few questions around that in forums and groups, so I thought I'd do a bit of a delve into it and a closer look at some of the pages, and you can see some of the things that they've added. So if we start opening the first couple of pages, you'll get a bit of an idea of what I mean. So they've removed any references to non-Napoleonic things, and at least that's the plan for it anyway. I'm sorry you may get a little bit of glare. I've tried to light this as best as I possibly could. All the imagery is either artwork or it's been replaced with images of epic miniatures, which is a really nice touch. A lot of the text seems the same, but they've obviously changed the layout slightly. So at the beginning, again, more images of epic models and things. When you've got images of the armies and the units and things, they've changed all the descriptions and the imagery for those as well. So you just get a better idea. And if you pick this up without ever playing black powder before, there wouldn't be lots of references to rules that kind of don't really make any sense to you. There's the example of British infantry there, talking about unit's leader, about the leader's base. They've kind of sort of focused in and made the rules that were already written relevant to epic. I imagine 90% of the bulk of what is written is exactly the same you'll see, and I'm not going to compare this word for word. The bit that people are always interested in is the talking about the frontages of the units, with standard black powder. It's done in terms of measurements for frontages. We've obviously got fixed size stands provided by Warlord Games. You can obviously do what you want with that. You don't have to base them that way, but it's definitely the simplest way to do it, and it seems the logical way to do it. So you'll see here, what a lot of people are always interested in is what Warlord Games suggest, and it is only a suggestion. It's a sandbox rule set. You do what you want with it, and that's the way Warlord have always pitch their games. Really, it's your game. You go and play it the way you see fit. But we've got the infantry stands and the cavalry stands here, and you've got small, medium, and large. 3 bases, 4 bases, 5 bases. For infantry, cavalry is 2 bases, 3 bases, 4 bases, and artillery just a standard unit size, just 3 bases. There's no tiny there, so that's interesting. I haven't read it all through as a full comparison, so I don't know whether they've removed that completely or whether that's just the way they've suggested this. But this is a bit of a change, because this part of the black powder book, there's a lot of talk about creating units and frontages and things like that, so it's a bit different. And then you have formations. So again, these formation pages, some of the text I imagine is the same, but they've definitely changed the images, and they've used images based on using the epic stands rather than the other way around, which is really, really good. So it shows you where your leaders should be placed. It shows the formations as they would be with these 60mm by 20mm epic stands, and more. So it shows you mixed order, shows you squares, shows you how to change formation, again using epic relevant things, which I just think it's really good, especially if there's new players that are first time they have a Warlord Games product, maybe first time they've played any Black Powder, and having been sort of focused on Black Powder, and since the first epic release really with American Civil War, there's a lot of questions in groups about, well, you know, new players coming along and saying things like, I've never gamed this before, but this has really brought me in. I've seen that with Civil War, and I've seen it with Napoleonics, and a lot of the questions about, well, how many models do I need, what's a unit, can I cut the bases, and can I cut the unit size down, and things. The answer is yes, but you kind of need to read what's here first before you realise what you can change to suit your own needs and things. So you've got brigade formations there, and then you're into the game rules, and once you start getting into the game rules, there's less changes. There are some bits removed. I think on this page in this book, there's a heading here about sort of the way you play the game. That's been removed, I think, probably just to make way for this optional rule here, which is about reducing ranges by half or using centimetres. So I think throughout the book it sticks with the standard inch measurements, and then it's an optional rule to reduce them. I suppose it all comes down to table size. If you're playing on a really big sort of 12x6 table and you're having massive games, you may want to stick with the standard measurements for Black Powder to make sure your game's quick. If you are playing on a smaller table, which a lot of people will be with this, you may well want to reduce things to increase your table real estate, so to speak, and I probably will be. I mean, you may change the movement, keep the movement, but reduce the ranges, or you may do the opposite, depending on what suits your games better. Again, back to that sandbox thing. Sort out with your sort of gaming group, your friends that you play with most, what works for you, and do it. Really, have some fun with it. So, if I go back to the contents, you get a bit of an idea. So there's 258 pages in this book. If we compare that with the old one, so 198. So you've got, you know, 60 more pages there, which is quite a chunk, and we'll go and delve into what they are. Now I kind of spend a little bit of time with a coffee today working my way through the contents pages, looking for differences. Some of it you can see is identical pretty much all the way through. Some they've kind of changed the layout of them on the pages, so they kind of squish them in together. So again, I'm not going to do an hour-long epic video where I tell you every single change, because I'm going to miss something, and that's not really very interesting either. But I just wanted to kind of give people an idea of what this booklet is. So let's focus then on the actual chapter 3 onwards, which is where the book is vastly different from your standard Black Powder generic rule book. So if we skip forward to page 122, so what we have here is the 100 Days campaign, and that's where you start to see things taken from other supplements, and I think an awful lot of it is going to be taken from this supplement here, which is the Albion Triumphant, which is the volume 2, the 100 Days campaign, and these were obviously originally written for 28mm. I've been around for a while. I have the volume 1, which is Peninsular stuff as well. There is a Clash of Eagles, which is the French campaign in Russia in 1812 as well. All written by Adrian McWalter. They're absolutely fantastic, full of wonderful artwork, history, extra rules to add flavour to the Napoleonic period, and scenarios. Now, obviously not all of that is in this book, but there's a fair chunk of it, and I've been flicking through the books page by page, and this is all in that book, maybe laid out slightly differently, but by putting it in this book, they've made this a really, really nice, very complete set. Now, I'd still recommend picking up that book, because there are extra rules for different commanders and things that aren't covered. There's extra units and things, there's extra scenarios, but they've got the core of it over and the feel of it, which means you can get away without needing that book, and you can still play a very flavourful 100 Days campaign. If you're interested, like me, in other parts of the Napoleonic period, so in the Peninsular War, using these figures maybe for Russia, if someone wants to convert Russian troops or use a different manufacturer, or keep their fingers crossed that Warlord do Russian troops in the future, they may be interested in picking up Clash of Eagles so they can do the 1812 stuff as well. So we got more history, so Quatre Bras and Ligny. This is all in the Albion Triumphant book, I believe. And I keep flicking through. I think that map's new. It may have been used somewhere else before, but I think that map's new. And then we get on to the Battle of Waterloo as well. So it talks about battle plans. There's loads of really nice history. So if you've maybe just watched Sharp and you've always had an idea that you like Napoleonic period and you think about picking up this set, there's a really nice little introduction to the period here if you are unsure. And if, like me, you love it, the period anyway, and you've been reading around it for a number of years, it's still a nice thing to read through. And column versus line. It's a lot, as you can see. I'm flicking through here. This is a lot of history and explanation about the period, which will really help you, inform you in the way you maybe play the game. As if you've never played the period before, you might not use the formations or understand the rules. You understand why you get forced into square and so on. Little section on army lists. So this is using the army lists. You've got Great Britain. Got a couple of commanders here, so they're the two main ones. Again, these pages are taken from Albion Triumphant. It does stop there. There are more, I believe, in that book. British infantry. It's got some of their special rules and things. Some stats, so foot guards, line infantry, Highland infantry. So it should cover. There is light infantry as well. It does cover some of the things from the book, but it will cover enough for you to use what's in in the boxes that that this comes with, so you can play the games. And you've noticed here it's got stats there for a small rifleman unit and for regular. So I'm guessing quite often, I know I will be, if I'm using riflemen, they would be in smaller units. But you get the idea. So the Life Guards and the Royal Horse Guards, it's got the stats for the units that you need for the 100 Days campaign, which is brilliant. It just means you just need this book and you don't really need to go and buy loads of other supplements. King's German Legion, I'm probably hovering too long on these pages. British Army, got staff ratings, Hanoverian brigades and things as well. Loads and loads of info. This is still all British stuff, so there's a lot more information in this than was in the booklet that came from American Civil War, and I use that as a comparison because it's the best direct comparison. This is a bigger release, but they've learned a lot from that release, and they've really seen that how popular the scale and the release can be, and this just shows you that how much effort they've put into it, in my mind anyway. Then you got allies, Brunswickers, Netherlands, so to speak, Brunswick Army. There's a lot, there really is a lot, and some of this might be new stuff, I'm not sure. I haven't read my Albion Triumphant 100 Days one cover to cover. I did focus more on the Peninsula stuff, so that people who are familiar with that book may have seen all this before. But pop in the comments if you're thinking, if anyone sees stuff like that's really new, I don't think Warlord have produced that before, then let us know. Obviously, onto Prussia, a couple of commanders there. On to troops and so on and so on. Let me flick through a little bit faster. The plan wasn't to show you every page in the book, really. Obviously France is covered. Be a bit strange if it wasn't. Very similar to the rest. Covering the key units, covering the units that are covered by miniatures that they've produced. So there's your Middle Guard, French Young Guard, we've got Marines, artillery, excellent stuff. So I'm really happy with the book. I thought there might be a little bit extra. I mean, they've talked a little bit about it before on some interviews. The War Games Illustrated article, they mentioned it as well, that the book had been revised, that they've removed things, and that's one of the core things as well. They removed things that are relevant to the Napoleonic period. I think irregular troops, stuff like that. There are chunks of the rules that have been taken away from the pages I've compared, that I've looked at they appear to be, the wording is identical for whole sections, so they're copy and pasting awful lots of it, reorganizing it, and then removing things that just has no relevance at all to it being Napoleonic. There you go, army lists again. I don't tend to use them too much. I prefer to look at historical order of battles and just knock something together for a fun game. Unit summaries, and then we go to scenarios. Now, some of these scenarios are definitely from Album Triumph. Some of them are from the Black Powder Rulebook, and a couple may be new. So we've got Ligny, Battle of Quatre Bras. I think that's from Album Triumphant. I don't think Ligny is, I might be wrong. Eve of Waterloo, I'm sure that's in the standard Black Powder Rulebook. And De Erlon's Attack, I think this is new as well. I may be wrong. This is, funnily enough, for the Waterloo part of my project. I'm doing a part Peninsula, part Waterloo. This is the area of the battlefield that I'd be focusing on, so I'll be looking at this. I don't think I'll use it directly, but it gives me an idea of where to start from. It's quite an interesting part of the battlefield where you might be having brigades from one division and some brigades from another, but you're not completing whole divisions. Whereas the Peninsula period I'm working on, it's kind of, I've picked a whole division and picked that area of the table. So again, great. More pictures of the stuff that they've produced. So that's the Sarissa, the Hay Saint, which I'd be very tempted by and may pick up, and lovely lots of painted miniatures there as well. Again, you see there's scenarios for all the major engagements really, apart from, I think, unless I skip through it, the whole battle all in one, which would just be too big, I should imagine. So there's your quick play sheet. I'd have loved this to have been in the box and card, or one of the little overlays which you used to get in the starter box. I think you do in the Waterloo one, where you got your cardboard protector with the cardboard rulers you can get out on the side, and then a quick play sheet. There isn't one in the starter sets for these. That would have been nice. I don't mind flicking to a book like this, but I quite like to have a little printout because my memory is awful. Some people, they play these games a couple of times and it's all in their head, but a good chunk of it is there. So I'd love a really good quick play sheet. If anyone out there is great with publisher or anything like that, and I'm not, I'd love to see one knocked up, and I'll happily help share it on the social media, on the channel and things. Here we go. But that's a bit rambly. But I just wanted to do a slightly deeper delve into what this book was and how it was different from that, and it is quite different. As I said, there's an extra sort of 50 odd pages in there, and it's all good stuff as well. It really is, and I really like that. Just kind of those early pages where you're not kind of reading rules and thinking, well, march column, attack column, they make sense, but how do these relate to these epic bases that I've got? The fact that they've changed it just makes it so much easier, and the fact that all the artwork is related to the epic release just makes it a really much more rounded product by itself. Pop any questions in the comments below. I won't always have my book on me to answer, so I may just say thank you, sorry my book's not handy, but if you do want to ask a question, I don't mind skipping. If I've got the book handy, I don't mind skipping to a point and just checking a reference for you. Any thoughts on it? What do you guys think about what they've changed? Is it a good thing, or would you prefer they just stuck the standard rule book in there in a little booklet? Is it a good thing? I'm sure there'll be the odd comment from ACW fans as well that will say, why didn't they do it for the American Civil War? I'd have loved this for American Civil War as well. I think the easy answer is the same with a lot of things, is that they've learned a lot from that release. The success of that release has given them the money and the backing to invest more into this. This is why it's better, and it would probably always be a bigger thing anyway, because I think Napoleonics just sells more. I think it's standard economics. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to just rereading the rules, and I'm going to reread them just with this in mind, and flick through and read it from cover to cover now. But I really wanted to, after a quick skim through last night, really wanted to just sort of do a short video and put it out there, because I'm sure what is in this book has been a question with a lot of people's minds. I know it was on mine, and I knew that it was a similar thing before the Epic Battles American Civil War release. I wanted to know what was in that booklet, and how many extra rules and things you got. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please give us a subscribe if you like the other content on the channel. Think about giving this video a like, and I'll catch you soon.